Hello and welcome to the program which looks at the Holy Land. I am Paul Calvert. Psalm 34 verse 8 from the New King James Bible says this, "O taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who trusts in him." I'm with Lori Hinze from A Taste of Israel. Now, Lori, what is A Taste of Israel?
A Taste of Israel is my goal to bring people to Israel on food and wine tours, culinary tours, biblical food tours, so that they can see what is actually going on in Israel from a perspective of food and wine. Why food and wine? Well, first of all, food is what brings people together. And so when they come and see what's going here and they see the spiritual lesson behind it, it opens up a completely new idea about Israel. So, and I'll share more with you as we go along.
So it sounds like the perfect holiday, eating food and drinking wine. So what do you do on the tour? Where do you go?
This is exactly right. It is a lot of fun, and there are lots of reasons for food and wine, eating and drinking food. But we go, I tell the story, really, of Israel through food and wine. And what does that mean? That means the modern country of Israel is a modern-day miracle. It's a living miracle. So we start in the modern-day city of Tel Aviv, just so people can see the thriving, bustling, living Jewish people in the Jewish land of Israel with all of the metropolitan restaurants and food halls and all of that. Then we take a step back in time. We travel up north. We see Judea and Samaria where vineyards have been growing for thousands of years, but they went dormant while the Jews were out. So then we go back to biblical Shiloh. We go and stand and see the very spot where Abraham stood, the 3 seasons where God promised him this land. And then we go next door and visit vineyards where these vines are suddenly growing again after 2,000 years. And when you touch that vine, you're touching prophecy, because God's promises are true, and he's faithful to his people. Whenever he brings them back to Israel, Amos 9:14 says, "I will bring them back, and they will rebuild their ruined villages. They will plant the vineyards once again, and these mountains will drip with sweet wine." So I take my people to those mountains, the mountains of Shiloh, the mountains of Judea, the mountains of Samaria, and we touch the vineyards, the vines, and we drink the wine. And then we make our way down to Jerusalem, and we see the ancient modern Jerusalem, and then we end our tour in Judea, so we can see what I believe is the future. We go to places like Our Good Farm, where I just had a bottle of wine from there recently. It's their first production of wine from those mountains, the mountains of Ziv. You know the mountains of Ziv? This is where King David wrote the Psalms. I take my group there, and the wine that they just served me last week, literally, is the first wine that's been produced from the mountains of Ziv in over 2,000 years. Wow. It is a wow type of trip.
You're actually seeing biblical prophecy being fulfilled.
Absolutely. Here's why it's so unique. There's no other country that can claim this. Tell me, where are the Romans? Where are the Byzantines? Where are the Persians? Where are the Ottoman Empire? They're gone. Where are the Jewish people? They're back, and they're alive, and they're thriving, and the land has come alive again as proof of God's promises to his people and to the biblical prophecy of all that we were just talking about.
So when you go into a restaurant, do you get to meet the chef as well?
Yes, sometimes we do. We actually do. One of my favorite chefs is Chef Moshe Bassan here in Jerusalem, who owns Eucalyptus, which is a very, very nice restaurant, and he is called the Biblical Chef, and he is very personable. He'll come and visit with us. We also get to do some hands-on workshops, so we get to meet the chefs and the food producers. We get to visit cheesemakers, dairy farms. It's a very, very unique, fun, and spiritual experience.
So if he's called the biblical chef, are there biblical foods that you go out and you eat?
So the way that works is they use biblical ingredients and put it into modern cuisine. For example, hyssop. Hyssop is a biblical herb, and he uses it in his food. He also has this dish that is figs. Figs, how many times are figs and fig trees and fig leaves mentioned in the Bible? He takes figs and he stuffs figs with chicken. Yes, it's wow. It's next level cuisine.
Are you a chef yourself?
I am a chef. I was a teacher, educator before, and then I took a sabbatical and went to culinary school. And I came back from culinary school and opened up a cooking school. So my priority is a cooking school for kids and adults in the States. And then when I first came to Israel, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago already, I saw everything through the lens of food and wine because I'm in the food industry. And that's when I realized the food scene here is more than remarkable. It's also prophetic, and it's mind-blowing. So from a chef's perspective, there's no place like Israel.
Do you get to go to the wineries and actually taste the wine of the wineries? And does Israel have a good wine industry?
That's the best part, is tasting the wines, touching the vines, meeting the winemakers. I was just at a winery near the coast 2 weeks ago, and yes, I met with the actual winemaker. And so we meet with the winemakers, we taste the wines, and your second question is, does Israel have a nice wine industry? The answer is yes, amazing wines, but just like Israel is almost 75 years old, it's like an awkward teenager. They're so far ahead of their time, but yet they're such a young country, a modern country. So their wine industry is the same. Some of their wines are so ahead of their time, and some are so brand new they need more time. So it's a mixture. Some of the best red wine I've ever drunk is from here. It's bold and dry, and it's like wow. And then there's some that are more mellow, just like Israelis. They can be intense, but so loving. That's how their wine is.
Are some of the wineries in danger? We know that in Gaza, for instance, there are balloons that come over with fire and they land in Israel. Are some of those wineries in danger?
Well, unfortunately, that is the case with many industries in Israel, that they have to deal with the terrorists that do not want the Jews living here. But what I love about the Jewish people here in Israel is their strength and their commitment to living in their God-given land. They're covenant people. This is their covenantal land. And so when those things happen, and they do happen, they call it, agricultural terrorism, where they go and burn the vineyards or uproot the vineyards or burn the trees, or they do those to the Jewish people. The Arabs do. So the Arab terrorists, I should say. They just go back and they replant. They replant and they refuse to go away. And so they just all come together, and their strength is very inspiring.
Do you also teach on the tour?
Yes, we do a little teaching. I try to show people the spiritual connection to these vineyards, to this food. There's a rabbi that once said, when you eat food that was grown in the land of Israel, or you drink wine that was produced in the land of Israel, you are eating a miracle. Think about it. 1948 was when this country was reborn. That's just 3 mere years after 6 million Jews were annihilated. And so they came back in 3 years post the Shoah with their language intact, their culture intact, their religion intact. So when you go to the Shuk in Jerusalem or the Shuk in Tel Aviv and you see the food that was grown here, that's a miracle. It's a living miracle. So I try to bring that out so people can see yes, there are great vineyards in France and great vineyards and food and wine tours in Italy. Amazing. But there's nowhere like Israel because it has the spiritual connection and the history here that no other country has. It's very unique.
Of course, they invented the drip system as well, didn't they?
So, they invented the drip system. They invented the cherry tomato, the cell phone, you name it. The list goes on and on and on. Absolutely.
Shabbat is very important here in Israel. So do you get the opportunity to celebrate a Shabbat meal as well?
Yes, we absolutely do. And that is the highlight of the food and wine experience that really connects you to God and to the spiritual elements. I've come to understand by learning from the Jewish people that because of Shabbat, the elements of Shabbat are essential, which is light, which is from olive oil, wine, which is the Kiddush blessing on Shabbat, to start Shabbat and end Shabbat, and the bread. The bread is also indicative of the temple times when the high priest would have the showbread in the temple. So the olive oil that produces the light, the wine, and the bread are all essential elements of Shabbat, which brings us back to food. It's so central to a biblical lifestyle.
What's it like for someone on the tour who's never had a Shabbat meal before?
I have seen people cry because it's so moving and so elevating spiritually. It is a beautiful, beautiful experience for people. It really opens their eyes and changes their mind about that.
Do you get to eat food from different wonderful locations?
Oh my gosh, I love that question because if I've said this once, I've said it a million times just on this trip alone, that being in Israel is like being in a constant foodie festival. People are noshing and eating and everything's about. We're sitting here in a place where there's probably 20 restaurants right now doing this interview. It's all about the food. So yes, every cuisine is here. Also, it's not. It's like yes, there's falafel, yes, there's hummus, but there's Ethiopian food, there's Thai food, there's Korean food. The world is here. It's amazing.
I guess if you're in the north as well, you can eat at the Sea of Galilee and just look over where Jesus was, where Jesus ministered.
Oh, we absolutely have a wonderful fish lunch on the banks of the Sea of Galilee after we do the boat ride, and where people can go and take the ride on the very lake that he performed one of the miracles of walking on the water. And so then we go and have a delicious fish dish. Because, in the Bible, Jesus cooked breakfast for the disciples after that, tumultuous time on the water with the storm. He was cooking breakfast. We take them to that very place where he cooked breakfast. Yes, it's very powerful.
Do you come sometimes during the holidays when they eat special foods as well?
Yes. Okay, so my favorite holiday to be here is, there's two, really. Sukkot, which it's a 7-8 day festival where you're eating, it's all about the food. Also Shavuot in the spring, because it's they eat dairy. So the best cheeses from all over the country are brought out, and it's just an amazing time to be in the land during these biblical holidays.
Of course, you've got Haman's ears for Purim, donuts for Hanukkah,
Oh my gosh.
and apple and honey for the New Year.
I have got to make a comment about Hanukkah. So there's no place like Hanukkah in Israel than any other place in the world. Their donuts have 24-karat edible gold flakes on their donuts. You must come for Hanukkah.
So everything that you do, is this building bridges between Christians and Jews?
Absolutely. My goal is to use food and wine to connect Christians to the Jewish people and see that the Jewish people are fulfilling their God-given commandment to bring Torah to the nations, to be a light to the nations. And so I'm a really strong believer in Christians coming to the Jewish people to support them, to stand by them, to learn from them. They are God's covenantal people, and we are blessed to be able to be a part of that. And so I use the food and wine tours to build those bridges, absolutely.
Now you're from Texas. Why do you have a heart for Israel?
So I happen to have the good fortune to be under a pastor who opened my eyes to this, to Israel, and that I visited Israel for the first time with Pastor Mark Biltz of El Shaddai Ministries out of Washington State. And it was through him that I learned about replacement theology and about, things that aren't so easy to talk about with the history of the church towards the Jewish people. And then that was many years ago, well over almost 12 years ago, I guess. Since then, I've come across and have relationships with other leading Christian teachers who have opened my eyes to other things too. So all of that to say, the short version is, when I came for the first time, I came with a typical Christian mindset. I was going to come to Israel for my personal pilgrimage of faith. And if I was able to, meet a Jewish person, that would be great. Well, lo and behold, I had no idea that I was not only going to meet one Jewish person. I was going to meet a whole group of Jews who changed my look on spirituality. And put it like this. The Jewish friends that I have now have made me a better Christian because I've learned so much from them. They enrich my life, the way they understand the Bible. There's layers and layers of meaning, which I had missed previously. But because I have now relationships with Jewish people, and my pastor, Mark Biltz, who opened my eyes to this amazing country, well, I was smitten, and I've never been the same. My life is now defined by before I went to Israel and after I went to Israel. So I'm definitely in love with this country and these people.
I imagine that food is a good way of building relationships as well, isn't it?
Well, I have a saying that hummus is going to bring peace to the Middle East between everybody, I think. But seriously speaking, yes. When you think about food has been part of mankind from the beginning. When you think about food, what was the act that caused man to fall? It was the act of eating something, forbidden fruit. What happened when God gave the Jewish people the Torah on Mount Sinai? What happened with those 70 leaders on the mountain? They had a meal. Jesus' last act of fellowship was a meal before he was crucified. So good and bad all the way around, food connects people to places, to things, to experiences. It elevates the soul. The Bible says wine is a blessing and it brings joy. And so everybody likes to eat, but there's so much more to food I think that we're missing. There is a level of spiritual elevation that I think we miss sometimes.
How did you become a believer?
I became a believer when I was 16. My father, of blessed memory, may he rest in peace, became a believer first, and then he began to pour into my life. And those seeds brought fruition. When I was 16, I met the Lord and had a radical transformation, and I've never been the same.
Why do you do what you do?
Well, because I want people to have that same experience. It's life-giving. It's life-giving to walk with God. It's life-giving to see food from a different perspective, to come to Israel. You're just never the same. And when you find something good, don't you want to share it with others? I want people to have that same experience. It's not something to keep to myself.
How do people feel when they've been on the tour and they come back home?
Well, the last group I brought was just before COVID, and I was recently visiting with one of the ladies from that group, and she was sharing with another lady about the tour she took with me, and this is how she said. She said, listen, when you go with Lori to Israel on a food and wine tour, it's literally 10 days of miracles. She's never been the same either.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
Big transformation.
And what is your prayer for the organization and your prayer for Israel?
My prayer for the organization is that it will go beyond myself, that more people will come, even if it's not with me, they will come and experience the land, the people, the food, the prophecy, the Bible. It's like walking in a living Bible. I was literally in the South 2 days ago videoing sheep herders herding their sheep. There was a guy in the vineyard trimming the vines. It's like you're walking in the Bible. So I want to go beyond me, and my prayer for Israel is that it continues. And just today we were talking earlier about there's a plane bringing 200 Jews over to make Aliyah. I just want to see that and cheer that on.
And what's your website for people who'd like to know more?
Sure, thank you. My website is atasteofisrael.com, atasteofisrael.com. And if they're interested, I'll be doing a trip in the spring of 2023. The dates have not been confirmed, but we're looking at end of April, possibly beginning of May. And they can email me directly at atasteofisrael@gmail.com.
Okay, Lori, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us today. Pray that God will move by his mighty power in the Holy Land and bring his peace.